Okay, let's begin. Good morning. Let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 9. Quick recap again. I know sometimes it's kind of week in, week out as when we can all get here. In chapter 8 last week, we saw that the people of Israel went to Samuel the prophet and they said, "You are getting old, Samuel, and we don't like your kids. They are not like you, and if your kids represent anything as to how they would run us as being a judge, we don't want any part of that." So they said to Samuel, "Give us a king." And you remember it said that was displeasing or evil in the sight of Samuel, and he takes it to the Lord, and God says, "Listen to the voice of the people, Samuel. It's not you they're rejecting, it's me. I want to be their king. If they don't want that, then listen and give them what they want." And then Samuel gives them a list, and he tells them all the things that this king would do to them. In essence, he would make them the slaves to him. He would take their sons, their daughters. He would make them drive his chariots and all of that. But in verse 19 of chapter 8, it said, "Nevertheless, the people refused to listen to the voice of Samuel, and they said, 'No, but there shall be a king over us, that we may be like all the other nations.'" And remember that phrase is repeated twice in chapter 8. They wanted to be like all the other nations, and that the king may go out and fight our battles. Keep that in mind, because that's going to come into play this morning when we're in chapter 11. So the Lord said to Samuel, "Listen to their voice and appoint them a king." So Samuel said to all the men of Israel, "Go every man to his own city." They're all gathered together. They're gathered together, and they said to Samuel, "We want a king." Samuel said, "Okay, go off, and we'll make this happen." So let's pick up the story in chapter 9. Verse 1. Now there was a man of Benjamin, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, the son of a Benjamite, a mighty man of valor. He had a son whose name was Saul, a choice and handsome man, and there was not a more handsome person than he among the sons of Israel, and from his shoulders up he was taller than any of the people. So for the very first time, we are introduced to the man and the future king, King Saul. The once and future King Saul. Saul meant, literally his name, means asked of God. Remember, Paul in the Old Testament was originally named Saul, and it was God who renames him from Saul to Paul. So here's King Saul. He was a Benjamite from the tribe of Benjamin, and we are told three things about him. Number one, he comes from a good family, at least a wealthy or well-off family. We don't know anything about the spiritual life of his family that he comes from, but when it talks about Kish, who's the father of Saul, it says he was a mighty man of valor. That's a mighty man of influence, a mighty man of status. So he's coming from a good family. He has it set up pretty well, number one. Number two, he was handsome. 1 Samuel chapter 9. Not just handsome, it said he was the most handsome. There was not a more handsome person than among he out of the sons of Israel. And then number three, he was tall. But again, he wasn't just tall. What does it say? From among the sons of Israel, from his shoulders up, he was taller than any of the people. Not a bad resume when you're looking for a king. Sounds like something from The Bachelor. I don't watch that show. Just putting that out there. But these really are qualities that do take into account when you're looking for a king. A king needs to be handsome, he needs to be tall, and he needs to have a good background. And I mentioned this last week, but as we read about the life of Saul, pay attention to hints as to how Saul's spiritual life plays out. And it's really a journey, it's an up and down journey all the way until he dies and David takes the throne. So let's try to watch that play out in the coming weeks. Verse 3. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. So Kish, the father of Saul, said to his son Saul, "Take now with you one of the servants, and arise, go search for the donkeys." He passed through the hill country of Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shalisha, but did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalim, but they were not there. And then they passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them there as well. Some commentators have actually speculated that Saul's poor judgment as a shepherd in the fact that he wasn't able to find these lost donkeys indicated a poor spiritual life on the part of Saul. I don't think you can read that into the text. All it said was he couldn't find the donkeys. Maybe they were just really fast or something. But you can't read into the fact that because he was a bad shepherd, that translated into the fact that he was a bad spiritual man of God. That would be what we call eisegesis, where you're reading into the text. But there's a couple that have speculated that. But let's keep reading. They're looking for the donkeys. They can't find them. They're going throughout the land. Verse 5, when they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servants who was with him, come and let us return, or else my father will stop being concerned about the donkeys, and he will become anxious for us. Verse 6, he said to him, the servant, verse 6 said to him, behold, now there is a man of God in this city, and the man is held in honor. All that he says surely comes true. Now let us go there. Perhaps he can tell us about our journey on which we have set out. Then Saul said to his servant, but behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is gone from the sack, and there is no present to bring the man of God. What do we have? The servant answered Saul again and said, behold, I have in my hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way. Formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he used to say, come and let us go to the seer. For he who is called a prophet now was formerly called a seer. Verse 10, then Saul said to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went to the city where the man of God was. So they're on their way, they're looking for these donkeys, and Saul said, we need to call this off, otherwise my father's going to stop worrying about the donkeys, he's going to start worrying about us. And the servant said, well, before we do that, there's a man of God in this city nearby, and he is held in high honor. He's, of course, talking about Samuel. A prophet is often called a man of God. And if you look in verse 9, the narrator inserts a little commentary. And again, the narrator is writing likely 100 years after these events. And we're going to see another clue of that in chapter 11. But the narrator, again, is probably writing after the division of the kingdom of Israel under the reign of Rehoboam. Saul, David, Solomon, Rehoboam was the king in which the kingdom of Israel would split. So the writer is writing years away, but he's looking back saying, back in these days, they used to call these prophets a seer or a man of God. They were formerly called a seer. So the servant said, come, let us go see him. Maybe he can help us out. We have no luck finding these donkeys. Let's go see this guy Samuel. Saul said, I don't have any cash. I only carry credit cards. The servant said, it's okay. I still carry cash. Saul said, okay, let's go. Verse 10. Verse 11. As they went up to the slope of the city, they found a young woman going out to draw water and said to them, is the seer here? They found young women going out to draw water, and they said to them, is the seer here? Verse 12. They answered them and said, he is. See, he is ahead of you. Hurry now, for he has come into the city today, for the people have a sacrifice on the high place today. As soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. But the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now therefore go up, for you will find him at once. So they went up to the city, and as they came into the city, behold, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to that high place. The high place was indication of where they would sacrifice. They wanted to sacrifice the animals at a place where the majority of the people could see it and in essence take part of the sacrifice. So as they're coming up, and they said, yes, Samuel's on his way. He's going up to the high place, and once he's sacrificed, then he is going to invite people to eat with him. Not everyone is going to eat with Samuel. It says, therefore go up and you will find him at, it says, because he must bless the sacrifice, and afterward those who are invited will eat alongside of Samuel. They don't know who this guy. We don't know if Saul knows who Samuel is. We don't know if he knows him by name. All they know at this point is they're going to see this man of God or this seer. Samuel was very well known as the prophet of Israel. You would think Saul would have known him by name, or in essence had heard of him, but we're not told if he has or not. Obviously, the servant knows about Samuel, but we don't really know what Saul thinks about him. And keep reading, verse 15. Now, a day before Saul's coming, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel, saying, about this time tomorrow, I will send a young man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him to be prince over my people Israel, and he will deliver my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have regarded my people, because their cry has come to me. 17. When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, "Behold, the man of whom I spoke to you, this one shall rule over my people." Then Saul approached Samuel in the gate and said, "Please tell me where the seer's house is." Samuel answered Saul and said, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and in the morning I will let you go and will tell you all that is on my mind. As for your donkeys, which were lost 3 days ago, do not set your mind on them, for they have been found. And for whom is all that is desirable in Israel? Is it not for you and for all your father's household?" Saul replied, "Am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest tribe of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak to me in this way?" This is interesting because Saul approaches Samuel. He hasn't told him anything yet about the donkeys. All he says is, "I'm looking for the prophet of God." And Samuel says, "Yes, I am him. By the way, do you want to come and eat with me?" Saul wouldn't have expected that, to be invited to dine with the prophet. And then Samuel said, "Hey, those donkeys you're looking for, don't worry about them. They have been found." Saul had yet to tell them about the donkeys. So this is Samuel setting something up because he knows God had appointed Saul to be the next king of Israel, and he's setting them up. And then in verse 21, it reads a little wooden here, but the New Living Translation reads it this way. He says, "I am here to tell you and your family that you and your family are the hope and the focus of all of Israel's hope." That would prompt a response from Saul that said, "Why do you talk to me this way? Am I not just a Benjamite of the smallest tribes, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin?" Which is interesting because it said that Kish was a mighty man of valor. So for him to say, "I come from a pretty low family, why are you speaking to me this way?" is kind of interesting. Verse 22. Then Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall, and he gave them a place at the head of those who were invited. So not only is Samuel taking Saul and inviting him to eat, he gives Saul the very best place at the table. It's like the Thanksgiving dinner, right? When you all get together and there's that one spot at the table that the leader's sitting at, right? That patriarch of the family or whatever it is, he gets that spot. That's the spot that Samuel gives to Saul. At the head of the table who were invited, who were about 30 men. Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the portion that I gave you, concerning which I said to you, set it aside." 24. Then the cook took up the leg and what was on it and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, "Here is what has been reserved. Set it before you and eat, because it had been kept for you, and eat it for you, because it had been kept until the time appointed, since I have said, invited the people." So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they came down from the high place into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the roof. And as they arose early at daybreak, Samuel called to Saul on the roof, and he said, "Get up, that I may send you away." So Saul arose, both he and Samuel went into the street. And as they were going down to the edge of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Say to the servant that he might go ahead of us and pass on, but you remain standing now, that I may proclaim the word of God to you." So not only does he get the special place at the table, but he gets the very choice meat which Samuel had been reserving until Saul had come. You have to wonder what all what the 30 other guys were thinking there. Who is this kid? Because Samuel would probably, we don't know how old he was, but he was at least a young man. Who is this guy? Why does he get this place at the table? And why is he getting this choice meat? But of course, Samuel knows what he's doing, and he's setting this all up. Who knows what Saul was thinking? Saul would probably just, "I'm just looking for my donkeys. I'll take this nice meal and stuff, but what in the world is going on?" And now this prophet of God said, "Send your servant away, because I need to speak to you privately." Any thoughts, questions so far?
What did you say his name was?
Who?
Saul's name.
Asked of God.
Axe?
Asked of God.
Oh, ask.
Asked of God.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Can you help sort out? I've heard that the name David, or the man after God's own heart, could also mean the man of God's choosing. But it feels a lot like God chose Saul as well. You know, Saul's supposed to be the choice of the people, and David's the choice of God. But at the end of the day, it seems that they were both chosen by God in a very special way.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you?
I think you're right. Exactly right. The people want a king, but they don't choose who the king is.
Right.
when the people want to transition from being under judges to a king, they say, "Give us a king," and God says, "Okay, I'll give you a king," and He chooses Saul. He chose Saul. Yeah.
Why do you think He chose Saul, knowing Saul's heart?
I think this is the same reason He would do anything else. And knowing Saul's heart, yes, but Saul had every opportunity to do right. And he starts off good, as we're going to see in chapter 11. Same thing with David. Why would He choose David, knowing the transition of the path David would put?
I would just say what I think about in answering that question that you asked is that it goes back to God saying that people rejected me. So this is what you get. So Saul, represents, the consequence of the people. So it comes back to the people rejecting God.
Yeah.
So Saul says, this is who I'm going to give you. Give you someone who's going to rule over you essentially harshly. And so it was like within the plan because people rejected God as their king.
Yep.
And wanted their own king.
Yep. Great point. All right, let's keep reading. Chapter 10, verse 1. Then Samuel took the flask of oil, poured it on his head, and kissed him, and said, "Has not the Lord anointed you a ruler over his inheritance?" Again, we are not sure what Saul is thinking by now. First thing that happened is Samuel invites Saul to dinner. Then he tells him he's the focus of the hope of Israel. Then he gives him the best spot at the table. Then he gives him the best meat that he had been reserving for him. Now all of a sudden, when they're alone, the prophet of Israel, Samuel, takes out the oil and he starts pouring it over Saul's head. And if Saul knew his Old Testament and knew his scriptures, he would have immediately been brought back to Exodus 30. Because in Exodus 30, I'm going to turn there and read it. You can turn if you want. But in Exodus 30 is where the description of what the oil represents is found. Let me read it to you. And again, if Saul understood this, he would have understood this was not just any oil and something special was going on. In Exodus 30, verse 22, "Moreover, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take also for yourself the finest of the spices, of the flowing myrrh 500 shekels, and of the fragrant cinnamon half as much, 250, and of the fragrant cane 250, and of cassia 500, and according to the shekel of the sanctuary, and of olive oil of hin. You shall make of these a holy anointing oil, a perfume mixture, the work of a perfumer, and it shall be a holy anointing oil. With it you shall anoint the tent of meeting and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all of its utensils, and the lampstand and its utensils, and at the altar of the incense, and the altar of burnt offering, and all of its utensils, and the laver and the stand. You shall consecrate them, and they may be the most holy. Whatever touches them shall be holy. You shall anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may minister as priests to me. You shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying, This shall be a holy anointing oil to me throughout your generation. It shall not be poured about on anybody's body, nor shall you make like it in the same proportion. It is holy, and it shall be holy to you. Whoever shall mix any of it, or whoever puts it on any layman, shall be cut off from its people." This is a very special oil that Samuel is using. So for him to pour it over the head of Saul and anointing him, again, if Saul knew what was going on, he would have known this was a big deal. And it may have been sinking into Saul now. Verse 2, Samuel says, "When you go from me today, then you will find 2 men close to Rachel's tomb in the territory. Rachel, the wife of Jacob, who was the mother of Benjamin, of whom Saul is part of the tribe. And they will say to you, The donkeys which you have went to look for have been found. Now behold, your father has ceased to be concerned about the donkeys and is anxious for you, saying, What shall I do about my son? Then you will go on further from there, and you will come as far as the oaks of Tabor, and 3 men going up to God at Bethel will meet you. One carrying 3 young goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a jug of wine. And they will greet you and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from them." Verse 5, Afterward, you will come to the hill of God, where the Philistine garrison is, and it shall be, as soon as you have come there to the city, you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place with a harp, a tambourine, a flute, and a lyre before them, and they will be prophesying. Then the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you mightily, and you shall prophesy with them, and be changed into another man. It shall be when these signs come to you, do for yourself what the occasion requires, for God is with you. And you shall go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down to offer burnt offerings and sacrifice to you. You shall wait 7 days before I come to you and show you what you should do. What is all of this? This is Samuel confirming to Saul that what he's telling him is true. And this is Samuel saying all of these things you're going to do. You're going to meet all these people. They're going to be carrying these goats, these instruments down the hill. And then you're going to be transformed into a new man. And this is in essence Samuel confirming his status as a prophet to Saul, saying, I'm telling you this is true, and I'm going to prove it to you by telling you what's going to happen next. And when it all comes true, then you will know that I am a prophet of Yahweh, and what I am saying is true, and you will be the next king of Israel. And of course, the solidifier here is in verse 6, when it says, the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon Saul and changed him into another man. And I think in New Testament terminology, we can say this is when Saul was born again into a believer of God. Saul's life will never be the same. Never, ever be the same. Never again will Saul say, I am a simply low man from the tribe of Benjamin. Why did you speak to me this way? He's still a humble man, and we'll see that as it plays out. But his life is going to change drastically. Think about it. One moment, he was just the son of Kish who was obeying his daddy's orders, saying, go out and look for these donkeys that I've lost. The next moment, he is being anointed as the first king of Israel. All within the span, it seemed that it played out over a couple days. But it really is moment by moment. And it is an illustration, I think, that God can change a person's life in a moment. Absolutely in a moment. And you can be going about your day, doing your thing, and the next thing you know, God could change your life. Think about Moses. Moses was Egyptian royalty. And when he ran away from Egypt, he ended up in the deserts and in the mountains being a shepherd for 40 years. 40 years. He was 80 years old. He had been a shepherd for the past 40 years. He probably was planning his funeral. He probably didn't think he had many years left. And then one morning, it's another day, he wakes up, he's tending the sheep, and he sees a burning bush, and his life is never the same. David, a young teenager, tending his sheep, a shepherd in the hills, nobody knows who he is. He's overlooked by all of his older brothers. And then one day, he wakes up, he's going out, being a shepherd. Another day, same thing over and over again, and his daddy calls him in. Said, come son, someone's here to see you. And he sees Samuel, the prophet of God, and he gets anointed as the next king of Israel. What about Paul? Paul was a persecutor of Christians on his way to Damascus. He had no intention of becoming a Christian. And he's on his way to Damascus, and he meets the living, risen Jesus Christ, and then his life is never the same. So God can change your life in a moment. Sometimes for good, but then sometimes for bad. Not in the sense that God is going to change your life for the bad, but things can change for the bad in a moment. A couple weeks ago, we were all shocked when Kobe Bryant died. You remember that a couple weeks ago, and the news broke midday Sunday afternoon, and Kobe Bryant was a cultural legend, cultural icon in the American culture and in the sports world. And the whole rest of the week, the cultural conversation and definitely the sports conversation was on Kobe Bryant. And one of the things a lot of people kept saying was, it doesn't feel real because our culture tricks us into thinking some people can't die. And if some people can't die, Kobe Bryant would have been one of them because he was so big in the cultural eyes. And what was so interesting to watch a lot of these people saying was, it was a reminder to me that, man, if Kobe Bryant could die, I'm going to die one day. And it really forces us to deal with our own morbidity, our own mortality, in the sense that if Kobe Bryant, his life was taken away in the span of seconds, really, then what could happen to me? The verse that was in my mind all week after that event was Luke 12 and the parable of the rich man, when the rich man is building his retirement village and he's taking all of his stuff and he puts it all together. And he says to himself, I have a lot, eat, drink, and be merry. And then God says, you fool, this night your soul is required of you. And the point of the parable is about riches and how we can take all of our money and wealth and accumulate them, but we can't take them into the next life. And, that's not what I'm associating with Kobe Bryant, but it's a reminder of the fact that, you fool, today your life is required of you, meaning we can be on our way, living our life, and God may take our life. That's just the reality of it. And it is morbid and it's not comfortable to think about. But the reality is, God gives life and God takes away life. But we don't have anything to fear because Jesus Christ is the Savior. He was the only one in the universe who could defeat death, and he did. Death was undefeated until Jesus Christ. And he defeated death. The first Adam couldn't do it, but the last Adam did it, as Paul says in the New Testament. But it is a reminder that life can change in a minute. Life is a vapor, James says. And as the old saying is, only one life soon will pass, only what's done for Christ will last. So it's a good reminder. But in this case, back to Samuel, Saul's life would never be the same. He would be the next king of Israel. Let's keep reading verse 2. Where am I?
9.
Where?
Verse 9.
Verse 9. Yep. I went off on a little speech, so I got lost for a second. Verse 9. Then it happened when he turned back to leave Samuel. God changed in heart, and all those signs came about on that day. When they came to the hill there, behold, a group of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God came upon him, so that he prophesied among them. It came about when all who knew him previously saw all that he prophesied now with the prophets, that the people said to one another, what has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul among the prophets? A man there said, now, who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb. Is Saul also among the prophets? When he had finished prophesying, he came to the high place. Now Saul's uncle said to him and the servant, where did you go? And he said, to look for the donkeys. And when we saw that they could not be found, we went to Samuel. Saul's uncle said, please tell me all that Samuel said to you. Verse 16, so Saul said to his uncle, he told us plainly that the donkeys have been found, but he did not tell him about the matter of the kingdom which Samuel had mentioned. So Saul's life changes to the point where people, when they see him, they said, who is this guy? This is not the son of Kish that we knew. We're so confused, we don't even know who his father is anymore. Who is this guy? And then when Saul's uncle said, where have you been? They said, we went to see Samuel. Saul's uncle was very curious. Samuel? The Samuel? What did he tell you? He just told us the donkeys were found. Nothing about the fact that he is now a king of Israel. Obviously, he has yet to be confirmed. No one except it would appear Saul and Samuel knows he's the king. That's gonna play out. In verse 17. Therefore, Samuel called the people together at Mizpah, and he said to the sons of Israel, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I brought Israel up from Egypt, and I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and all the powers of the kingdoms that were oppressing you. But you today have rejected your God, who delivers you from all your calamities and your distresses. Yet you have said, no, but set a king over us. Now therefore present yourself before the Lord by your tribe and by your clan. And God reminds them, he said, I'm going to give you your king, but let me just remind you of something. I delivered you from Egypt. I delivered you from all the oppressors during the time of the judges. You have rejected me, but here's your new king. Present yourself by tribe. Verse 20. Thus Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel near, and the tribe of Benjamin was taken by lot. And he brought the tribe of Benjamin near by its families, and the Matrite family was taken, and Saul, the son of Kish, was taken. Here's your new king. Saul, the son of Kish. It's being done. They're narrowing it down. Saul, the son of Kish, was taken, but when they looked for him, he could not be found. Verse 22, therefore they inquired further of the Lord, has the man come here yet? So the Lord said, behold, he is hiding himself by the baggage. So they ran and took him from there, and when he stood among the people, he was taller than any other people, shoulders upward. And Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see him whom the Lord has chosen? Surely there is no one like him among all the people." So the people shouted and said, "Long live the king." We finally have a king. Long live the king. Verse 25. Then Samuel told the people the ordinances of the kingdom, and wrote them in the book, and placed it before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, each to his own house. Saul also went to his house at Gibeah, and the valiant men whose hearts God had touched went with him. But certain worthless men said, "How can this one deliver us?" And they despised him, and did not bring him any present, but he kept silent. Not the best start if you're introducing your new king, right? You're introducing your new king, and here's your new king, and where is he? And they have to go to God and said, "Where's our king?" "Oh, he's hiding over there." And they have to go and get him and bring him over there. Not the best start. No wonder some of the people said, "Can this guy really be our new king?" And this is still the Saul that says, "Why are you speaking to me this way? I'm a simple, lowly Benjamite of the tribe of Benjamin. Why are you speaking to me this way? Why am I the next king?" He's still a very humble Saul. He won't end up that way as the story unfolds. Any questions or thoughts? All right, let's keep going. Chapter 11, verse 1.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When David is becoming king, he gets anointed in private and in public, like 2 separate times. Was that not the case with Saul? Was he only anointed in private? Or do we?
You mean anointed in the sense of the oil poured
Yeah.
over him? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's another time when Samuel will pour the oil over him in a public setting. It could have been in this section when they bring him out and it's not mentioned, or maybe it's going to unfold later on. But yeah, I don't think it would mention that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, a couple more minutes. Chapter 11 is pretty short, so let's try to cover this. Chapter 11, verse 1. Now Nahash the Ammonite came up and besieged Jabesh Gilead. And all the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, "Make a covenant with us, and we will serve you." Nahash is the king of the Ammonites. Nahash means snake. And he was a snake sort of king. The Ammonites are the descendants of Lot's daughters. Back in Genesis 19, Lot's daughters escape the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah alongside with Lot. They don't bring their husbands because when Lot goes to warn his son-in-law that God is going to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, the text said that they appeared that Lot was jesting to them. So they weren't able to take Lot seriously even in this time when Lot was trying to save their lives. So they escape, and the only ones who escape are Lot and his daughters, because we know what happened to Lot's poor wife, right? She got turned into a pillar of salt. And as they escape, their daughters say, "We are the only people left on earth." They assumed that God had judged the entire earth, but instead, rather, obviously, he only judged the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. They thought they were the saviors of humanity, so they said, "We need to get our father drunk and have children so we can continue the line." So they get Lot drunk and they sleep with Lot and they produce offspring. One of them was a son named Ben-Ammon, who would be the father of the Ammonites. So when you read the people group of the Ammonites, just keep that in the background of your mind. That's who they are. They're the descendants of Lot via his own daughters. They settled primarily in the east of the Jordan River. When the Jews left Egypt, the Ammonites refused to help them, and God punished them for that. That's found in Deuteronomy 23. They were known for worshiping the pagan god Molech. Molech was the one who had the face of a cow, and whenever he's depicted, his arms are usually outstretched because he's always taken in child sacrifice by burning them alive. The god of Molech. One of the more famous ones was Naamah. She was the wife of Solomon and the mother of Solomon's son Rehoboam, the king whom under the kingdom of Israel was split in two. So Nahash, they come and they besiege this area of Jabesh Gilead, verse 2. But Nahash the Ammonite said to them, I will make the covenant with you on this condition, that I will gouge out the right eye of every one of you. And thus I will make an approach on all of Israel. That seems like a one-sided deal. I will make this covenant with you if I can gouge your right eye out. Verse 3, the elders of Jabesh said to them, Let us alone for 7 days, and that we may send messengers throughout the territory of Israel. Then, if there is no one to deliver us, we will come out to you. Then the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and spoke these words in the hearings of the people, and all the people lifted up their voices and wept. And they said, Look, sure, let's make the deal. Give us 7 days and let's see if we can try to defend ourselves. And they go out and they send messengers saying, Someone please come and help us out. Who do they go to? Not God. They go to their new king. Remember one of the reasons they wanted a king? So that he may go out and fight our battles for us. That's why they want a king. They have a new shiny king and they go to Saul. Now verse 5, behold, Saul was coming out from the field behind the oxen, and he said, What is the matter with the people that they weep? So they related to him the words of the men of Jabesh. Then the Spirit of God, verse 6, came upon Saul mightily when he heard these words, and he became very angry. He took a yoke of oxen and cut them into pieces and sent them throughout the territory of Israel by the hand of messengers, saying, Whoever does not come out after Saul and after Samuel, so shall it be done to this oxen. Then the dread of the Lord fell upon the people, and they came out as one man. Verse 8, he numbered them in Bezek, and the sons of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. Again, that's the narrator writing after the fact, and he's writing looking back, saying, those who came from the kingdom of Israel, 300,000, those who came from Judah, 30,000. The difference in number is because the kingdom of Israel had the 10 tribes of Israel, whereas the kingdom of Judah only had 2 tribes of Israel. So that's why there's such a big discrepancy in the numbers. So, 300,000 come out to fight for their new king. Verse 9, they said to the messengers who had come, Thus you shall say to the men of Jabesh Gilead, Tomorrow, by the time the sun is hot, you will have deliverance. So the messengers went and told the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. Then the men of Jabesh said, Tomorrow we will come out to you, and you may do to us whatever seems good to you. The next morning Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came out in the midst of the camp at the morning watch, and they struck down the Ammonites until the heat of day. Those who survived were scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. Then the people said to Samuel, Who is that who said, Shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men that we may put them to death. But Saul said, Not a man shall be put to death this day, for today the Lord has accomplished deliverance. So you understand what they're saying? They're saying, who are all those people who said Saul couldn't do it back in chapter 10? Bring them over here and tell them to come check out our boy now. But what they're really saying is, bring them over here so we can kill them. Saul said, No, we don't need to do that. Let's instead credit God for this accomplished delivery in Israel. Again, he starts off good. He's the new king of Israel. 300,000 come out to fight for him. He rallied up the troops against the Ammonites, who had been oppressing them to some degree. He passes his first test. Israel's probably proud. We have a new king. Verse 14. Then Samuel said to the people, Come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there. So all the people went to Gilgal, and they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal, and there they offered sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. So that might be an answer to your question, where they made Saul king there before the Lord in Gilgal.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, they have a new king. He passed their first test. He slew the Ammonites. 300,000 come out to fight for him. They're feeling good. They're strong, they're powerful, they're respected again, and we'll see if it continues, right? Well, we know the end of the story, but it's always good to keep in mind, though, as you're reading the story, the people in the story, they don't know how 1 Samuel ends. They don't know who David is. They don't know how the story ends. So when we read that, keep that perspective. They're living it chapter by chapter. That's a good perspective to have. Any final thoughts or questions? Objections?
Doing good so far. He's doing good so far.
Yep. Okay, we'll wrap it up here.